campaign to boycott chickens for a month escalated, and the head of the poultry division reveals the reasons for the high prices. The head of the poultry division of the Federation of Egyptian Chambers of Commerce, Abdelaziz Al-Sayed, opposed the campaign to boycott buying chicken for a month, which was launched by activists on social media, and considered it useless, explaining that the high feed is the reason and not the final seller. Al-Sayed told the evening program on Al Jazeera Mubashir, on Monday evening, that the consumer always looks at the final product without looking at the actual cost of the production process, which mainly controls the price of the product, stressing that the production inputs, fodder, are exaggeratedly high. Al-Sayed explained the extent of the increase in the price of fodder, saying, "We import more than 80% of corn and soybeans, a production ingredient safe from abroad, and the increase in their global prices led to an increase in their prices in Egypt, and the price of fodder reached £22,000, $800, per ton, and soybeans to £31,000, $1,150, per ton, and corn to £15,000, $550, per ton." He added that the poultry sector in Egypt is suffering greatly, and perhaps more than half of the sector has already been affected, and instead of planning to export, before the crisis, and open new markets to achieve self-sufficiency, we now aspire to the return of poultry manufacturers who lost and left the market during the last period. Regarding finding solutions to reduce the crisis, he said that price discipline starts from strict control over the main importer of production inputs, looking at the actual prices according to the purchase invoice, and taking into account any fine and any actual additional cost that is proven in the papers, and of course preserving the seller's right to the profit margin. And the official continued, "We want to remove the product, the chicken, from the producer's proceeds directly to the consumer, and eliminate two links, the wholesaler and the retailer, and thus poultry prices can be reduced by between 10 and 12% for the consumer." In the same context, the economist and former head of the Syndicate of Journalists, Mandu Al-Wali, refuted, with figures, the volume of fodder that Egypt produces and imports from abroad, explaining the volume of increases in its prices globally during the past years. Al-Wali told Al-Masaya that we must look at the actual cost of the product so that we do not wrong any of the parties, so that we do not harm the producer, considering that its existence is essential, especially with the large employment in this sector, which reaches 3 million workers. According to him, Al-Wali explained that the poultry industry relies 75% of its cost on fodder, corn and soybeans, and according to data from the Central Statistical Organization, a government agency, Egypt achieved self-sufficiency in corn by 45% in 2020, as it produced 7.6 million tons and imported 9.4 million tons. In total, we will consume 17 million tons of corn during the year. As for the situation of soybeans, it is worse than corn, as he put it, as the sufficiency rate was only 1%, meaning that in 2020 we produced about 36,000 tons, and in the same year we consumed more than 4.5 million tons of soybeans. Al-Wali explained that prices were rising globally during the past 3 years. In 2020, the average price of a ton of soybeans reached $407 per ton globally, and in the following year it reached $583 per ton. In 2022, it increased by 16% to reach $675 per ton. The same applies to corn, as its price in 2020 was about $166 per ton. Then in the following year it was $260 per ton. Then in 2022 it reached $319 per ton. There is feed, according to the former Syndicate of Journalists, that has been held in the ports since last February until now. Part of it has been released and the other part is still being held in the ports. He continued, when these goods are released, the price of floors and fines obtained by the customs authority and the so-called security guards are added to their cost, in addition to the cost of transportation, whether externally through the ports, or internally from the port to the merchants, meaning that all these stages are included in the price of the final product. And raise its price. Activists on social media launched a campaign to boycott the purchase of chicken for a month, starting today, Tuesday. in protest of the 20% increase in its prices. During the past 2 days, participants in the campaign, including public figures and consumers, confirmed that the price of chicken had risen to levels they described as unacceptable because it exceeds the capabilities of families. Middle income,